Rail. All long-distance passenger rail services, both public and private, will stop operations for the duration of the lockdown. Services of Shosholoza Mail, Premier Class Air, and Blue Train operated by PRASA and Transnet respectively have already been suspended. The new regulations mean that private rail operators, such as Rovos Rail, will also cease operations. All commuter rail services will shut down for the duration of the lockdown. This includes all metro rail and Gautrain services. Aviation. All international and domestic flights are prohibited, irrespective of the risk category of the country of origin. Only essential air cargo will be allowed. However, cargo from high-risk country must be sanitized. Maritime. The ban on cruise ships calling at any of our seaports will be strictly enforced. As you will all know that the ban has now been enforced since from last week, and it will actually continue. Essential cargo will be allowed at our 8 seaports. However, cargo from high-risk countries must be sanitized. Taxis, minibus taxis. As part of the relief measures for small businesses in distress, as announced by the President, those taxis that have been financed by the National Taxi Finance, administered by the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, SIFA, will be granted a 3 months repayment holiday. Commercial banks are also considering similar measures. Minibus taxis will be allowed to transport essential services, workers, and those allowed to make the necessary permitted movements. Transport movements in this regard will be allowed to operate from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and again in the afternoon from 16 hours to 20 hours. I want to repeat, transport movements in this regard will be allowed to operate from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. daily, and in the afternoon again from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. closed. Operators should put measures in place to adhere to social distancing in order to curb the spread of the virus. All minibus taxis must be sanitized after every trip. All taxi ranks must be sanitized at regular intervals. Where appropriate, government will provide assistance. Metered taxis and e-hailing. Metered taxis and e-hailing meaning Uber. That's the only thing I think is popular, that many people know. But besides that, there is Bolt and many other services in terms of e-hailing. Vehicles will be allowed to transport essential services workers and those allowed to make the necessary permitted movements. Transport movements in this regard will be allowed to operate from 5 to 9 and again from 16 hours to 20 hours. Metered taxis and e-hailing vehicles must be sanitized after each and every journey. The industry will take responsibility for this. Where appropriate, government will assist. The number of passengers each vehicle is allowed to carry will be reduced. A vehicle licensed to carry up to 4 people will only be permitted to load 1 person. A vehicle licensed to carry up to 8 passengers will only be permitted to load a maximum of 3 passengers. Sanitizers used in all taxi vehicles must have a minimum of 60% alcohol content. Buses, Minister of Police says, when I say alcohol. Buses. Limited bus operations will only be allowed for purposes of rendering essential services. Limited bus operations will only be allowed for purposes of rendering essential services. Cross-border road transport. All cross-border road passenger movements will be prohibited for the duration of the lockdown. Cross-border freight movement for essential goods will continue to and from our neighboring countries. During the lockdown period, most services rendered by our entities will be suspended. Vehicle testing centers and driver's license testing centers will be closed. Should your driver's license expire during the duration of the lockdown, it shall be deemed to remain valid until the end of the lockdown, with the grace period of renewal within 14 working days thereafter, unless otherwise determined. We will maintain skeleton staff for purposes of safe road operations, clearing of accidents, maintenance of tunnels, as well as road traffic enforcement.